Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Sound Advice, Get Year 1 in Business Right, brought to you by Sage. I'm Bex Callede. I've been a business journalist for over a decade and I've seen firsthand how easy it is to romanticise being your own boss, running your own company. We all love a kitchen table startup story, but it can be hard to pick apart how a successful entrepreneur made it all happen. Sound Advice is about giving you, the small business owner, practical advice that you can take away and use to grow your business. Every fortnight, I'll be bringing you an incredible array of bright startup stars. It will be inspiring, yes, but it's mainly going to be useful. On with the show. This week I am delighted to be joined by Julien Callede, who is the co-founder of Made.com, the incredibly stylish online furniture brand, which is now a massive international success. He has since left and is now partner at the Entrepreneurs Partnership, which advises startups and small businesses on everything from innovation to scaling fast. Welcome, Julien.
Hi Bex, hi everybody.
So, I think that everyone's heard of Made.com. I mean, it's a massive brand now. But what I think people maybe don't know about you is that when you decided to start the business, you didn't know how to design furniture. So I would love to know how the hell you start a business when you have no experience in that industry. Can you tell me everything?
I didn't have a background in building a big business, or I actually didn't have any background in building an e-commerce business. My first job was in a small furniture business. Actually, I was working with a small furniture importer, and I spent like 2 years going from factories to factories with a plane a day, a hotel a day, 4 factories a day, learning with other people cash all the mistakes that you could make in that industry on how furniture was made, how much it costs, where not to go, what not to do, how to purchase it. So that is the one thing I knew. All the rest I didn't know.
So you knew what you were getting yourself into.
We knew. The thing is, we had a pretty good vision of what we wanted to achieve, which was bringing original design of a very good quality at a much more affordable price than the market to people who usually at that time didn't have access to nicer designs at a good price than what they would find at our Swedish friends. So that we knew how to do. We also knew that other people tried to do it and they worked okay, but then they failed in operating the business. So we knew where we could fail. We just didn't know exactly how to achieve it. The one thing we knew, yes, was how to buy products on how technically furniture was made. I was not an expert. Which designers to go for, we were not an experts. But what we built together was an innovative model. What we put together was an innovative model to design products differently and purchase them differently, and then we used the power of the internet in order to make it possible. The great thing you have when you sell online, and I used to say that, and that summarizes a big thing about the business, is by selling online you can actually target the 60+ million customers in the UK with one store, which inventory-wise solves everything.
So you didn't know the e-commerce part. How did you set about learning that? Because, did you have an amazing network with people that could help you? Did you do a kind of online e-commerce mini MBA? How did you achieve that part if that was the missing piece?
I had an amazing network of co-founders, and 2 of them at least knew the e-commerce space, and that did help. You would have asked me at the time who to go for as a CTO, what platform to use to run my business. I would have had no clue. You still find a way in this case. You go to people, but then you need to rely on those people to give you the right answer on the right contact. That's where being 3+ does help quite a lot. We're actually 4. If I had been alone, what would I have done? I would have gone to, if you're alone, you go to your friends. If you're lucky enough to have friends who build e-commerce businesses. If you don't have friends who build e-commerce businesses, then you either go to the friend of friend, but every time you go to people that you know less, the risk that the insight or the contact they're going to give you is going to be average is higher. So, or you go to experts in the industry. I would probably have, I don't know whether I would have dared doing it in the past, but if I had to do it now, if I want to, let's say I want to go into the apparel business or the shoe business, I just go to LinkedIn and ping people who I think know and say, hey, dude, would you have 15 minutes? I would love to learn from you. People usually answer.
And did you know when you started the business how big it would become? Did you have in your mind that vision of scale day one?
I'm pretty sure that if we were looking again at the business plans we had day one on the paper, the numbers would be pretty high. And then you start slower, and then I actually made this just south of 300 million sales around now. So it's huge in a way. But what you don't realize though is, what does that mean? What's a million? I had no clue what a million is, and actually I still have no clue what a million is. It's very hard to picture. What is easier to picture on the day, I think the 2 days I realized the business got big. It's not when it becomes trendy and you're at the hairdresser and she asks you what you do and you say, I have a furniture business, and she's like, hey, I know this brand, do you know Made? And you just shut up. So this is the fancy part. But the day you realize it's big, and I remember doing the bye-bye speech for one of my employees, and just realized we were 100 people. We were actually giving jobs to 100 people. And you always say you go to business for people to build a company on everything. You usually don't think about it. You think about your customers, you think about what you want to achieve. But when you realize that you have now 500 plus people who work with you, that's amazing. And the other day was, we tried once, that you can use Google Map to, you can upload a list of postcodes to your Google Map. That's something feasible. It just pins them all on the screen. And maybe 2 years in business, we uploaded all the postcodes of our customers. And you just realize that you have a customer in every street in London.
That's insane.
That means more.
Yeah.
That means more than we do millions.
No, that is insane. And to kind of see how loved you are as a brand on that level must have been an incredible feeling. But I asked the question because I wanted to know whether there were any sort of building blocks you put in place very early on in the business that you think readied Made.com for scale. Because for anyone listening who thinks, I want to be a big international business, what do they need to start thinking about very early and not trying to sort of do over again 3 years down the line?
Okay, it's a pretty tricky question. The reason why it's tricky is because the metaphor of it is the logistics supplier we're using now in the UK, which is a great one that can help us scale now, refused to talk to us when we were small. Sometimes you manage to sell yourself well on going to the big guys when you're small, and that's good. But even if they had said yes at the beginning, these guys would never have been a good fit for us. We were too small, we were disorganized, we didn't know what we would be doing, and we needed different people. So it's hard to answer because you need to adapt what you do and who you work with along the way. So that's when it's always going to be a struggle. Scaling is the most complicated thing. But at the same time, you have a few things you can get right or actually avoid getting wrong. The first one is hiring. People you work with. The only times we were too fast, too quick in hiring people, usually because we didn't anticipate it well enough. We hired too quickly, we made mistakes, and those mistakes cost a lot of time, focus, customer experience, cash. So hiring is a big thing. And we can talk about hiring for hours. I think we shouldn't only be hiring on technical skills. We should be hiring on fit, soft skills, whatever. Hiring people who are thinking out of the box, hiring people who are not from the industries, blah, blah, blah. There are a lot of things. The other thing which is people usually see as a scaling issue is operations, logistics, deliveries, warehousing. The bigger metaphor of it is your IT, your tech. What's going to be so your tech itself and your operations are going to be your huge bottleneck when you scale. I can see we started the business though if you ask me what ERP should I have day one, we were running everything on an Excel spreadsheet. I was going back and forth to Paris almost every weekend at the time, and I was running all the operations on Excel. What was coming in the country, who was going to be dispatched, which address, on everything. On my MacBook was crashing honestly, it was crashing 5 times every 2 hours Eurostar journey. And at some point you're like, I remember our tech guy Andy coming to Ning and myself at someone, he was like, guys, we need to implement an ERP system because we have two issues. If Julian's MacBook crashes and dies, we're in a bad situation. And or if he gets hit by a bus tomorrow, that the business doesn't work anymore. So that's what actually he called the bus test. We need to be able to pass the bus test. And we need to implement, first we need to get more people in who know how to just do the nitty gritty, nothing very technical, just like what tasks are to be done. And then when you know very well what you need to do on a day-to-day basis, the information you need to send to your warehouse on how your business works, you can implement an ERP system. If you don't have that, you won't be able to scale just because you need to automate a lot of things. If you don't know what to automate though, you're going to do it wrong.
That's really great advice though for any kind of business, because most entrepreneurs, founders, they end up wearing loads of different hats and doing so many different jobs. And if they break a leg or something, there's not usually anyone that can pick up each of those pieces. So that's good advice from day one, is to try and think about kind of who you could pass the baton to if you needed to, and build that resilience in. Because that...
Or if you need to take holidays.
Yeah. I doubt you had many of those in the early days. Or did you? Maybe you did.
I think I took my first one in like July 2011. So a year on 3 months in the business, which now doesn't seem that long. I'm like, a year without holidays is okay, you know. Like I took Christmas. And I remember that at the time I was burnt. I was like that. I was flying every month to Asia. I should have taken them earlier, but you don't want to. Or you can't, just because, I remember going on holidays on thinking that people would be making mistakes in the file they would be sending, they would send on stuff like that. All the basic things. Just because it's a very simple process, but they've never done it. But so that works for founding team, but that works for staff too. You have some staff who have to perform stuff on a day-to-day basis, like critical stuff, even though not complicated. But if you're a small business, it's not like you can replace somebody by somebody else, because everybody has got skills and they're trained on one task. But I remember that person was running purchasing on the year in the business. I mean, a year after joining us, he was like, I need to take holidays. And I was like, what? True, he needs holidays, but who's going to do his job for like 2 weeks? So you need to co-train people. You need to staff yourself correctly, which is always very, very hard when you don't have cash, if you're an SME, if you're a small business, if you're a startup. But there are ways around it. And
I guess you had the benefit of having 2/3 co-founders, because you had Ning, Chloe and Brent on board. Do you think that made a massive difference in terms of what you were able to achieve? Could you have done this as a solo founder, or did you need to have the team?
We could not have done this being just 3 and not 4. So I think that's an even better way of saying it. That's my view. I think you had 3 exec founders, 1 non-exec, Brent, who was critical to the business. Ning, Chloe and myself were all very different, which makes your day-to-day sometimes amazing and sometimes more complicated, but which makes the business go further, much further. Brent was amazing anytime we had questions, issues, needed to connect with people. I mean, we would not have done it 3 people. We would not have done it 2 people, and 1 person wouldn't have done it. Why? Because, especially for me, the business is very complicated. We have 4 jobs. I usually say we wear 4 hats. We have a furniture specialist hat. We have a supply and logistics specialist hat. We have an e-commerce hat and a design hat. And that's too many jobs. And we do everything from designing the product with designers, developing it on manufacturing with the factory, to supplying it. I mean, sea freight, logistics, customer experience, retailing it. It's too complex to be only one. The other part of like funding a business being multiple funders rather than one is that I think in general it's 80% of the people are better geared to co-funding a business rather than being alone funding it. I'm not saying that you can't fund a business by yourself. Some people are actually going to do well, and some people can't actually have a business with other people because their way of running it, their way of seeing it is being the sole driver. And some of them are going to do very well. But for most of the people, having somebody on your side who can help you, guide you, challenge you, work 200% of their time like you do, for free like you do at the beginning, is invaluable. We imagine you're 3 and you're giving everything you can from scratch in your business. You can get paid, doesn't mean you don't have to be paid, but you can get paid a little bit lower than what other people would be doing, and compare that to being yourself and having to hire 2, 3, 4 other people to do the same job, paying them full price.
So beyond there being sort of more warm bodies to throw at a problem, what you said at the beginning of your point about that tension between being very different personalities, and I've met you all and you are all big characters and all very different, bringing very different things to the party, how you balance when you've got disagreements. How do you do that as a founding team when you're all equally invested? How did you manage each other's personalities?
How do you manage your family when you have big personalities, and how do you manage your marriage? I think it's exactly the same. And this is usually the funny bit, but I'm not kidding. I was thinking of it in the shower this morning, and I was like, I always use the metaphor of the marriage, but it's so true. So I was on that panel with that lady founder once, and before the panel we were chatting a bit, and she was like, I will never ever co-found a business. I'll always fund it by myself. And I was like, wow, I always give the opposite advice to people. Be a few people in funding a business for the same reason I just said. But and I was like, so why? And she was like, every founder teams I've seen have been arguing. Some of them have split, blah, 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 blah. Oh yeah, that's true. And we did argue. I mean, quite a bit. But at the end, you go much further. And you argue with your husband, wife, whoever. You argue with your family too. It's a good one. But you will, if for most of the people, if you just stay alone, you won't go far. What is tricky though is, the most important for me is not funding a business with people who are similar or different. I think there needs to be a mix of them. I can tell you that with my 2 co-founders, individually speaking, we were very similar on some points, very different on other points. Even on the skill set. For instance, Ning and myself were very different on the skill set on some part, but we also had crossovers, which were very, very useful. When I was in China working on the supply, I received an email saying my warehouse was going into administration tomorrow. And I could just call my co-founder and tell him, dude, we have a problem. And he just jumps on the train the next day and can do your job. And yeah, that's important. So you need to go in business with people who have the right set of skills and the right personality. But the thing is, you will think you know them at the beginning, but then people are going to evolve. Again, it's like getting married at like 20 and just waking up at 40, and you will be very, very different. And you need to adapt, and you need to learn to adapt to the other person. The one thing which I think is critical though when you go to business together is being extremely transparent on your ambition for the business. What you want to achieve there, why are you in business? There are usually 2, 3, 4 reasons, or maybe 1 or 2. All of them are good. You might want to make something big. You might love the industry. You might want to make money. You might be willing to go 400% and give it everything. You might be willing to give it a lot of things, but not too much. And what you do not want is some people willing to keep going at some point for some reason, some people willing to stop. On the one thing we had, one of the things we had with Made were you had like 3, 4 founders who were all in, really loved what they were doing, loved that we were trying to achieve. We loved furniture. We loved trying to build something big that was disrupting the industry, and we were giving it all. And
you were all united on that purpose. That was all 3 of you. Do you think that was crucial, a unity of purpose then?
Yeah. Then on the way you do it, on what you think is right or wrong, you're going to have disagreements, but then you have to agree to disagree. That's the best sentence I heard from a friend he had. They were 4 founders. And they, you set up rules on who should decide, on how you decide when you can't decide, on stuff like that. But he was like, the most important is sometimes you agree to disagree on somebody's making a call, or you agree to disagree and then you make a collective decision.
No, that's great advice. So Made.com has raised, and forgive me if this isn't an accurate figure, but it's around 100 million in investment. So how did you go about raising that kind of money? I know it was over multiple rounds, but how did you get the business into a state where it was professional enough to take on that kind of capital? And what advice do you give to other founders who are looking for investment?
First of all, you don't need to raise money. It depends on your business. I just want to start with that, saying that in my view, raising cash shouldn't be a target in itself. But in some cases, for some companies, it's either a huge accelerator or a booster or absolutely necessary. And in our case, it was absolutely necessary. So thing is, every raise is different. And usually the first one and the last ones are the easiest. The first one because you have no numbers to show, and the last one because you're quite a secure company. In the middle, you're trying to scale or you're scaling and people have numbers to look at and you're never good enough. And that's what you usually see. Maybe the second one you're hot enough, and then usually what happens is the third one is tricky. At the beginning, I think we had everything that was needed at the time to have a good investment story. We had 4 founders, including 3 exec, including 1 non-exec, 2 of which, Ning and Brand, had raised cash before. I had funded the business, not raised cash before. Second time business for them. We had a huge market. The furniture in the market was already like kind of 10 billion size. It hadn't been disrupted either in the online space or in the models or the way things were built and sold. And we had some comparable in other markets that were doing well. So, I mean, at the end of the day, investors are not bankers, but they have a bit of something of bankers. Even though there is that big FOMO of not missing the big opportunity and willing to build a unicorn, what they want is bank on teams and projects that they think can go big, but are quite secure because they believe in the team. And I think we had the right set of skills. So we raised 2.5 million on the paper, which at the time was very big. I think now, I mean, even now, by the way, if we're talking to founders of smaller businesses at the moment, I think the big message to say though is you're gonna see all those guys raising 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 million on the paper. You might think, what the hell? I'm not managing to raise 300K. It's not normal. I've seen thousands of people like this. And you're going to be questioning yourself. Fact is, very little company raise multi-million on day one. What you don't see is those 50% of companies who don't raise cash and the 50% of companies who raise a few 100K, and that's not a problem. I mean, the press is just, the press and the blogs and the web is just talking about the big stories because people like it. So we raised 2.5 on the paper, then started growing like I mean, we had a very, very decent start as a business. Great year one, proving that we could design products, deliver them, I mean, sell them first. People were willing to bank on us and trust us on the fact that we were delivering the right quality of product, even though it was kind of half the price for the same quality. And they were willing to wait for a few months. So that was a big thing for us. And then we were managing to deliver that with a decent service. Yeah, that was the tough part. And then a year in, we started growing even faster, which got us into that phase where you were between October and October 2011 and January 2012, we grew the monthly business 4 times. We doubled in 2 months and doubled in 1 month. And we were re-raising cash at that time, so that was good. Re-raised cash, and then we entered that phase where we had to face all the growing pains and the scaling pains in the planet. Took us 2 years, took us a few months to stabilize the business, start growing again, built a really good team, even better team, a bigger team first, and re-raise cash. So that was like 2.5, 7 plus, 38 in 2015, willing to push hard on international. We had launched a few countries already, but we wanted to invest further and also strengthen the team. And we re-raised quite a bit of cash in 2018. What does help is, you just need to show people that you have a business that can go far and that won't go bust. That's the way I see it. And when we raised the last round in 2018, the business was showing that even though we were a fast-growing business, still growing like 30+% a year in the UK on even more as a business. We on doing more than a few hundred million. We were profitable in the UK, so that was one big thing. We were going profitable as a group, and we could, on all our countries, we're growing the same way as the first business. So the UK grew like this, and then every other countries followed the same growth path. And people can see that you can replicate your business, which is a big thing.
But that was really interesting when you said at the beginning, you don't always need to raise investment, because I feel like there's the rhetoric out there that somehow if you can bring investment on board, that you look like a more successful outfit maybe. And there's kind of this idea that kind of growing from cash flow alone or through other routes slows you down, but you don't think that's the case.
But what's your target? I mean, if your target is to build Uber, you're going to need investment. If your target is to build Deliveroo, you're going to need investment because of the size of business, because of the kind of winner takes all thing, because you want to grow fast, because of the small margins. If you want to be made, you need to get investment too, because you need staff and need a lot of things to make it happen. If you want to build a small brand, if you want to build a brand, it doesn't have to be a small one, but a brand that grows at its pace, you might not need to raise investment. Or that at some point in 5 years, you might own 100% of your business that is worth a lot of money, that is delivering amazing products to people, and you're going to be even prouder of just owning your business. That's why I want to tell people that they don't need that. I have one of my amazing guy at Made who built his marketing agencies actually delivering services to startup and SMEs, and he never raised investment. On half a year in, he's got like 6 staff, doing amazingly well, helping tons of companies, positive cash flows. No, he won't be making 3 million euro one, but does he need that? Actually, do you want to grow that fast? Because if you grow too fast, you're going to have to grow your team too fast. It's going to be more complicated. You need time to adapt.
And you actually kind of referenced that when you talked about blips along the way. Tell us about some of the blips that stand out in your memory and what you learnt from it as a business, as an ops guy, how you built more resilience into the business as a result of things going horribly wrong.
We had hiccups all along the way, and I think I forgot most of them. If you talk about like customer facing ones, or business facing, the easy ones, we received our first batch of product in our warehouse in July July 2010, like 3 months in the business. I went to the warehouse, I printed labels, 1 batch, 2 batch to test the printer, stick them all on parcels, and I stick the wrong batch of labels and everything got lost. The first delivery of products, which was, by the way, for half of it a bit late, got lost. And I spent my Friday evening with my even worse than now French English accent on the phone with customers telling me, where's my parcel? And you have to be there. Sorry, guys, they are actually lost in transit and they're going to come, but we never know when. Okay. So that was the first batch. Actually, half of them arrived with broken foot because the armchair hadn't been packaged well, even through our UK factories. Half of them arrived with a broken foot. And what else? Then our warehouse went into administration a month and a half into business. Maybe we negotiated prices too hard. But which gave us the opportunity to go on the road and find another one where we even had better prices because we went in and negotiated even further. A lot of the products got in with delay at the beginning. Some of it, let's say, which was a lot for us, 10-15% of the first batches were late, which is huge when you promise people 10 to 14 weeks. And so that was just the beginning. Then we adapted the business, we built buffer, we had a target that we needed to have 95 of the customers delivered in advance rather than taking any risk on the lateness. We overpackaged stuff. We learned about how to unassemble the feet of an armchair when delivering it. It's as basic as that. And then you have a better moment because you start scaling and suddenly you have those 4 times sales in 3 months and you're profitable. In January 2012, we were a profitable business already. And then everything goes wrong because your logistics partners can't cope with the with the growth, because your tech cannot cope with the growth, because we have payment issues, and you have to go back to it again. You switch from answering emails in like an hour and a half to 3 days. And you still don't have a phone number because you thought you had time to do it. Blah, 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 blah. So the few things we learned along the way, though, was even though we tried to anticipate growth as much as we could, it's sometimes never enough. And we should have had a phone number on the website, because if somebody is waiting for a delivery on a Monday morning and they took the morning off, and on Monday 6 p.m. they still have no news and they can't call you, that doesn't look good. And even though you didn't have time to adapt, even though it's not your fault 100%, because it's your delivery partners, it's still your fault. So we should have anticipated more. And also we were a bit, as it was our cash, and even though we raised like 2.5 million, we were very, very, I won't say cheap, but we were very cautious in how we were spending the cash.
Frugal.
We were very frugal. And I remember Brent telling me when we were raising the second round, he was like, you will see a big difference, because suddenly you're going to be able to hire more staff on people with more experience than actually you have in their field, which was true and wrong. I mean, that was really true. We could hire people with more experience. But by the way, what we did was hiring too quickly people with more experience and too much experience in their field who are not able to adapt to a new mindset, a new business model. So the first thing was anticipation. The second thing was hiring better. We had amazing staff. I mean, we have people who are still there, and they've been crazy good. But anytime we hired people in a rush, and that rush could have been 3 months, we were wrong. Anytime we hired only on technical skills, on experience, we were wrong. You need to look for the right fit and the right people.
It's so hard though, isn't it? Because I hear a lot of founders saying the mistake that they made was hiring too late. So it's just really tricky to know when is the exact right time where you're not overcommitting the business with a big hire, an expensive hire too early. But if you wait too late, if you wait too long, you can also kind of do yourself a disservice. It's just really tricky. I suppose do you go with kind of gut instinct, or do you kind of, how do you make that kind of call?
But the issue is what you forget there is, there is two things that get you to not hire too early. I mean, sometimes you're too early in your business for people who would be amazing for the next stage. If they join now, they're going to get bored. They have nothing to do. But most of the time, the issue is cash. You don't have cash to hire people. So, I don't know. There is no rule there. The rule is pay people. I mean, if you really need people, you're gonna find a way of getting them in. Don't hire too quickly, but when you need to hire people, find the best amazing guys out there and find a way of getting them in. If you don't have enough cash to pay them, find something else. They might need shares, they might need a more flexible way of working, they might need an amazing environment, they might need more responsibilities, just build something around it. We were lucky though that we had a great fast growing brand people could work with. That helped. And I remember I was telling people in the interview, that was very easy. I was like, what you will get, one of the things you get here is you're going to be working hard, okay? We won't be getting you to work just too hard, because nobody wants to have that works too hard, but it's not going to be a place where you're going to be bored, by the way, or lazy. But if you want to grow your responsibilities and you are able to do it, I don't even have to sell it to you, just because we'll need people. We'll need people to grow with us. And that was a big thing for people, as well as working with a brand they loved, which was into interior decoration, on furniture, e-commerce, modern. People were talking about it. That helped.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you've got a sexy brand and everyone loves the furniture, and you've got billboards, it's kind of an easy sell, because you want it on your CV and everyone recognizes it. Even if you think I'll only be there for a year and I'll do my time, even if it's really hard, I'm working long hours, I will have made.com on my CV.
True. And I was thinking of it. I was thinking about it while talking, and I didn't go for that on purpose though, because this only works for a maid or a big fast-growing company. I mean, saying that won't help people who have a smaller business. And I think you can make your brand sexy. The same way you go to a factory at the very beginning and you have zero business and you need to sell yourself in, and you do that with investors. And I'm not saying fake it until you make it, because I hate that thing. Just like make yourself sexy. You have some sexiness inside you in a way. Your business has something good, otherwise you wouldn't be here.
But how? Is there like a recipe? Are you kind of looking at your business and how you would maybe explain it to your pal at the pub and trying to pull out the interesting strands? Well, what's the process you can follow if you're selling like widgets that are used to kind of make machines that, you know, make engines? I don't know. How do you drill down to what is the thing that will make people, wow, that's cool?
But you know what? If you are selling widgets, you might find selling widgets interesting, and therefore just sell it to them the way you sell it to yourself. At the end of the day, people don't. If you're a small business, they will not join your business. They will join you. They're gonna follow you. And if you're able to show them why you totally love that and why it's amazing, they're going to be like, well, I got impressed by that person. Not saying that happened with us, but in small businesses, you need to get people to want to follow you because, yeah, by the way, their job might be boring in a way, but they're going to be here because they learn along your side. And it might not be technical skills, but they might learn stuff about business. You might be sharing everything that happens in the company, and that's very invaluable to people when they start their first job and stuff like this. I mean, my first job was in a furniture import business. At the time, did I care about that? No. I learned though, and I learned to care and love it. But I was not there because I wanted that on my CV, because nobody never ever knew that business. And I actually left my first job thinking that I would never go into furniture, working with Asia, on sourcing. Good job. But I was working alongside the guy who had funded that 20 years before, the investor who bought the company, and I was learning on a day-to-day, and I followed them.
So you've left made.com now. So tell me about how that felt to kind of leave that baby behind, and then tell me about the Entrepreneurs Partnership.
That's a very good question. I get it all the time. Would it be from business or friends and everything? But the answer to that is, it's never a process of one day. It's not like you wake up and you decide to leave, or your team wakes up and they decide that you should leave. I mean, that could happen in one day, but that's not what happened with any of us. In my case, I think I had been in the business for 4 years in 2014. Started hiring amazing people and help the company grow so that we would not be the one bottleneck, especially because we were taking on too much. Hired our current CEO, Philippe, who is amazing and helped us. I mean, he made it possible for us to scale that business at a time where we were starting to be tired, 4 years in, giving it everything. That helped. And then your life does change quite a bit, with very positively in a way. I mean, I had all the positive before that of like building the business, running huge part of it, growing it, making big decisions on making it work, being responsible for that. And suddenly, but that was hard. That was stressful. That was just too much, like for your 24-hour day, which you don't want to be 24 hours. And suddenly you have more comfort, and you begin that journey where you know that at some point this is going to be a big business. This won't be your family business ever. This will always be your baby, and this was always going to be my baby. But you won't stay there for 50 years. So you start that journey where you start building things around you that makes you replaceable in a way, which is good. It raises your level of comfort, your life is easier. The company becomes much more secure in a way, but it also builds bit by bit your level of frustration, that you're not making all the calls by yourself anymore.
You're making yourself obsolete,
yes.
Basically. I can't imagine how that must feel to be the agent of your own obsolescence in your own business. That just seems so crazy to me.
I bet you it happens to most of the founders. Most of them. First of all, because you need your company. I mean, you owe that to your company in a way. And secondly, because if you know that at some point you're gonna need to make a move out, You don't want that to happen, but this is going to need to happen. You won't be able to do it if you're still absolutely needing your business. And at some point, you reach that tipping point where, your business is secure enough. The team you have in place is not only able to run it securely for the rest of their life, of the life of the business, but also is going to be able to innovate, challenge it. They're going to be disruptors too on this is good. You have got rid of most of the day-to-day, on your level of frustration of like not making the calls, got that up, and you're like, okay, I think that's the right time. And you make a move out, but as it's been a process, it's not that big. I remember telling the team that I was going to move away, and I was like, is it going to be a surprise for any of them? Because it's been quite a bit that I haven't been in the day-to-day ops. I was doing business development for like 9 months, and you get a lot of them coming to you like, what the hell? What did that mean? Why are you leaving? And I was the third one leaving. I was not the first one. But you just have to tell them that you leave because you actually leave because you're very, very confident in the business. Otherwise, you wouldn't leave. And you leave because now that the business is secure, the teams are amazing. You are now going to be able to do something else and work on something else. It seems easy though, but then leaving is easier. But of course, I think about Mate every day. You always are like, we should do things this way or this way. But then you look at how the business is run, you look at all the new great things that are coming to the market, and that makes it much easier. I mean, the guys are doing an amazing job, so no regret. Still very happy to be talking to them on a weekly basis though.
But you talked about how exhausting it was to be always on in those first few years of Made. But does that become an addiction then? So once you start getting comfortable, do you start kind of yearning for that startup thrill?
That's the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, once you've lived it once, and you've given everything to one project where you actually were running fast. It depends on the people though, huh? When you've been running fast, making calls, taking risks, but these are moderate risks when you're a young business. You have much less to lose. That's what becomes harder when you're a bigger business. And Made is a bigger business, so you can't take as much risks. You just want it to happen again. So yeah. So currently I'm doing it, helping founders in that stage, helping them make less mistakes, take the right shortcuts. I've always said that to build a big business, you should not take shortcuts. You should do things the hard way. I mean, you should not the hard way, but like 100%. But actually, you can help people take the right shortcuts, avoid like all the wrong things we've done, on being their non-exec on the side. Tell
me some of those shortcuts. What are the right shortcuts? Give me a couple.
This is actually a tough one for me because I think people should not take shortcuts in the way they implement things, in the quality of service, the quality of the operations, like the website they build, on the quality of the products. They shouldn't. Sometimes raising cash quicker is a shortcut. When I said you shouldn't raise cash if you don't need to. I mean, you might not want to, but let's talk fundraising 2 seconds. I've been in a lot of debates on this one. My view is you'd rather raise more and quicker than at a better valuation, for instance. Rather than being 6 months more on the road, trying to strike 20% higher valuation, you'd rather raise now, get done with it, raise more, and be able to hire a team. Another big shortcut, actually the biggest one, is surrounding yourself with people who know. I mean, you're a funder. You have two kinds of funders, actually. I'm always amazed. It's not a criticism, but a bit still. I'm amazed by funders who think they know everything. And when they talk to me, it's not like I'm an investor. It's not like they have to pitch me. It's funder to funder, but they still think they know everything. And I don't know how they can think that, because they might know a lot, but nobody knows everything, especially in very specialized areas. And you have another half of funders who are very willing to get advice on get the right people. And I think surrounding yourself with people who know, like people who've got experience in building a company, or people who are expert of like digital marketing, logistics, operations, asking them questions rather than discovering everything yourself again is a huge thing. We made tons of mistakes, yeah.
So that's a good shortcut.
For me, that's a shortcut.
When you're at the Entrepreneurs Partnership and a founder comes in who thinks that they know everything, do you still help them, or are you like, don't let the door hit you on the way out, pal?
But the thing is, founders who know everything usually are going to jump on a call, which we always take, and then they're going to pitch you for 30, 40 minutes or an hour. And if they are not asking for anything, there is nothing you can help them with. It's up to them. And then some people are like showing you their business, and you're just asking a few questions, and very quickly they're like, wow, actually, do you know somebody who can help on this, or do you know somebody who can help on that? And yeah, I need somebody to help me on my supply or my tech, on my marketing. And then you're able to direct them to people you trust.
What are the common pitfalls or the common asks that you're hearing at the moment?
There is everything. Honestly, there is everything. If it's small businesses, people are always going to come, with all the very direct needs. Like either I need marketing, logistics, supply, or I need HR help, or I need fundraising help. But half of the time you're going to spend with them is going to be personal. I mean, it's not coaching per se, but it's like, whoa, how do I deal with my co-founders? I feel bad today. I just need to talk to you, or stuff like this. And this has values to these guys. But on the other half, it's a lot about hiring, getting the right team, getting the right people in. It's a bit about fundraising, but I do not think that's where the value is. Everybody goes to you because they think you have a huge network of people they can raise cash from, but that's like 5% of the value. And then, so it's hiring, and then it's 30% of the time, how can I market my business? How can I spend less money on marketing? For quite a few of them, it's, I'm a good offline business, but I only do wholesale. How do I go retail? Or I do wholesale and retail, but I want to go online, and it might seem to them, some of them they're asking because they're like, whoa, online is supposed to be easy and I don't know how to do it. But then this is the easiest one, by the way, is how to help people who are really good in the product they sell, their traditional retail, make the most of this new thing called the internet, which has never been a challenge, which has always been an opportunity, and now becomes a no-brainer to sell to their customers or to approach their customer more directly. I mean, yeah.
But you say it's easier now to sell on the internet, but when you were talking about the early days of Made.com and the teething troubles and late deliveries, like the consumer back then, I mean, it's not even that long ago, but the consumer then I think was a lot more understanding than consumers today, who are used to same day delivery, putting an order in and getting it that evening. Isn't there less wiggle room and less room to fail now? Are people not a bit more exacting?
I think that selling online today is much easier than before. I mean, the quality of service providers, partners you can work with now is 30 times higher than before. For a few months, your marketing spend might actually also be less expensive than before because of COVID and all that stuff. Media is still a bit cheaper than before. It's not going to remain like that for a long time. The quantity of people around you who know how to operate an e-commerce business is much higher than before. It's much bigger than before. So no, it's easier now. However, if you go to the wrong guys, if you get the wrong advice, if you operate wrongly, if you set up your Shopify the wrong way, you will burn cash. And that is true. It's very expensive. Selling online is not a debate. It's a no-brainer. It's a huge opportunity, but it can burn cash if done the wrong way. That's one big thing. So that's where you can help people. There is nothing crazy or magic. It's not like huge coaching strategy. Is nitty gritty on helping them do things without like making the mistake you could have done or other people do.
Okay, so going online is a no-brainer, but mistakes are possibly more expensive, basically, because.
Especially when you're small.
And with social media, everyone can find you and moan about you, and everyone will know, if they've got a big network. It's there's nowhere to hide anymore.
On this example, is more about delivering on time than delivering the next day. If you can't do the next day, it's about setting expectations with your customers. And that you can do. And if you have an online business, I mean, you have you can set up everything. You can talk to them on Instagram, you can send them newsletter. You can decide exactly what you tell them on your homepage, on your product page, on your checkout. It's not that hard. You have full contact. You have full transparency with your customers. What is hard is operating that, because even though what people will not forgive you is telling them it's coming on Tuesday and it's coming on Thursday, and you not telling them it's coming on Thursday.
But you mean just having that open channel of communication, then you almost have the room to make mistakes because you're keeping the customer in the loop at all times and they know that you're not ignoring them. That's the kind of sacrilegious.
The most important thing we've done at Made, okay, we had a few big things that were game changer, I think, for us. On there is nothing crazy. But I think the most important things was, from maybe 6 months or a year in the business, we started sending every customer after they got an item, an email asking for feedback. And we had long debates on whether we need to ask them for a rating, an NPS, blah, 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 to be able to follow the feeling on customers' ratings. But I think we still actually do that. We've always gone for asking them to free type their feedback, so that they could just give us advices or directions on how to improve the business. A lot of times I had people telling me, Julien, the inbox is getting too full because we're getting an amazing response rate. So that's what people should know, is if you ask your customer for feedback, they're going to give it to you. And it's amazing. And sometimes people were like, but if you usually don't do that. It's like you don't ask your wife or husband feedback, and you don't ask your boss for feedback because you know what they're going to say. You're like, oh my God. But imagine you were asking your boss for feedback because you know that this could be done better, and he tells you, you're actually, how do you say that? You're avoiding yourself an issue later on. You're showing them that you're proactive. Asking your customer to tell you what might have gone wrong to you is an amazing way, because they can voice it to you. They won't voice it on social media. And also you'll know what to improve in your business. And we changed tons of things that made after customer feedbacks. Now, this is extremely powerful.
But that's crucial, isn't it? That you don't just ask for the feedback, you have to implement it as well. Because a lot of businesses, they ask and then it's just like silence. But you actually turned it all into useful actions, right?
You try as much as you can, which is very easy when you're the one reading them on your team of 15 and you can implement the thing. What is very hard is, you don't even need to ask for a customer's feedback. You just need to open your inbox. If businesses see people who can make decisions were opening the inboxes, reading through feedback on a daily basis or a weekly basis, you would know how to drive your business. I remember being bored in China one day, a weekend I was staying there. I read maybe 400 emails and I categorized them on what is the topic? And then you know what's going wrong. You know where to save time. You know where to save money. Now this is big, but as you said, it's true. Customers will always forgive you if you do it once and you apologize. But if you apologize and then you do it again, then there is no forgiving. You need to act.
I think that's a brilliant point to end. I love that. I think that's going to be the quote that's going to be emblazoned on the front of this episode. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like the video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Also, you can always find more great content, our show notes and related downloads to help you put all this advice into practice on sage.com/podcast. Link in the description below. Thanks. Catch you next time on Sound Advice.